guys, this is Reckles with WTBGold, and today we're talking about 8 new glyphs in patch 9.1.5 for my fellow inscriptionizers out there. Now, 6 of them are super easy to farm up if you follow a right route. One of them is a little problematic, and one of them sucks. So, I hope you enjoy this video. It should save you about 2 hours of farming, so let's get right into it. Okay, so the first thing we're going to go farm up is the Mark of the Midnight Rune Stag, and this turns your deer form into a rune stag form, a reindeer form. It's way better. Like, unless you have one of the allied appearances, you should absolutely get this, and they're flying off the shelves. I'm on a tiny ass little server. I've already made a couple 100,000 gold with this, and I have people on higher pop servers that don't have very many scribbler competition, and they're making like 200,000 gold per hour. So absolutely take advantage of high prices, selling these for 10, 20, 30, 50,000 gold while you still can. But let's get into farming it. These drop off the deer in Arden Wheeled. My favorite route is my skinning route, southwest of Tirnaval. We're just killing rune stags here. And so I follow along this purple line. It's a very specific farm. Essentially, I'm doing like a series of tees, drag all the deer that I come across up to one point, and then I like jut off to the perimeter, and then I don't want anything to evade on me, so I run back to kind of a midpoint, and I'm just doing these like 2-step forward, 1-step back series of tees. But like, you will be absolutely fine if you just run around in a circle or a figure 8 here. Everyone in our group of 5 got one within, I think, 2 laps, so not a big deal. So in order to get it to drop, you need to have inscription. You don't need to have inscription max though, and in order to learn it, you do need to be revered with the wild hunt, so with Arden Wheeled. Now, once you get that to drop, we're going to go southeast to Hibernal Hollow to get a rep gated item. This one's a little easier. It just drops from a vendor. We're going to talk to Spindle Nose, who is the quartermaster for Court of Night. And this requires 1,000 anima, 5 grateful offerings, and it requires you to be honored with Court of Night. Now, if you are a Night Fae, this isn't going to be an issue. Court of Night is like the anima conductor reputation, which you get doing your Covenant campaign, so it's fine. But for everyone else, you can't go in the tree, you can't do the thing. So I really don't like this. I don't like it when they gate rewards behind decisions after the players have already made that decision. You know, if they want to do something like the Alder versus the Scryer, where it's like, here's what you get with this choice, here's what you get with this choice, choose wisely, then that's fun, that's interesting, and that's meaningful. But if they're like this and they're like, pick a number, and you pick 7 and they punch you in the face, that's not fun. Now, I'm being a little silly here. They aren't actually punching you in the face. But there have been recipes in the past, like leatherworking recipes, that require you to be a shaman. No one thinks about that when they choose whether or not to be a shaman. There was a mage glyph that made your mage table real fancy, and for that, your inscriptionizer had to be a mage in order to learn it. The difference there was that glyph was bind on equip, so you could sell it, but you just couldn't get a second one. And that's why those glyphs are like 500,000 gold on the auction house. The only difference here is it's not actually hard gated. You can go out and get Court of Night rep. You know the play boss where like the fairy turns into Gul'dan or something? Well, you just go out and you kill that boss once a day and you get 500 rep. That's the only way to get it if you're not a Night Fae. And don't worry, I've done the math for you. If you do it once a day, you'll be able to get honored after, I think it's 837 weeks. But once you get it, you're going to head west to the heart of the forest. For this one, you're talking to Aethelin, just northeast of the big tree, right next to that silk shortage quest that you keep ignoring and promising yourself you're going to do, but you never actually do. Once you get this one, though, it requires revered, costs about 1,500 gold. We're going to head northwest to Dreamsong Fen, all the way across the map. And from here on out, everything gets really cool, and it starts being like the type of recipes that we've been asking for as gold makers. And you probably see that the mark of the Shimmering Ardenmoth drops from Dromund Dawnblossom. But when you go up and you talk to Dromund Dawnblossom, he starts telling you like about his moths and how he's sad for him. And it's like, blah, blah, blah. Give me the thing. Give me the thing I want. Stop giving me backstory. Me. So this is actually really cool. It's like a secret and a breadcrumb quest all in one. So what you want to do after you talk to him, there's a little bug catcher net leaning up against a table. Click on that net, and then you're going to use your purple heartstone to go to Legion Dalaran, and then you're going to fly northwest to Volshara. Now, when you get to Volshara, there's some stuff you have to do there to get the Shimmering Ardenmoth glyph. But before you do that stuff, you want to go and talk to the quartermaster, who sells you the mark of the raven something, the Duskwing Raven, something like that. It's about 500 gold. This one requires honored rep with Volshara, so it's not a big grind, but it is also kind of out of the way. So I don't know, it's easy to get, but it's kind of out of the way. I think it's probably going to be server dependent whether or not you have competition here. But hey, advertise it in trade chat, let people know. One of the biggest things you can do to increase your sales for things like this are just let people know, because a lot of druids out there may want to look like a raven, but they don't know that that's been put in the game. So you have to let them know. Once you get that, just all around that major city, there's a whole bunch of these little veil flitter critters, little moths floating around. I went and did my farming up in the northeast area, but everyone else in the group did in the middle of the zone. And you just kind of run up to the moth and you target them, and then you use the net on them, and they run away before you can grab them. And so you just spin around like a doofus, and you feel silly, and you like, did I do it right or did I do it wrong? And so you try doing it again, and then you do it wrong again, and you start to get really frustrated, and you're like 10 moths in, and then you notice that you have a buff, and you must have actually caught one at one point. Oh, so if you actually catch one, you'll get a buff. It lasts 20 minutes, and the buff is like, I caught one, or I have one, or successor, or something like that. Once you have that buff, go back to Drummond Dawnblossom, and you're done. You talk to them again, you go through their dialogue, and you get the glyph recipe. I really like this. This is the kind of thing that we've been asking for as gold makers for a long time, like more integration into the world and the story and more fun in it. I've been asking for glyphs every patch for the past year, 2 years, something like that. But it's interesting to compare this to questing, another established system, or a more established system, where with questing you get a breadcrumb and it takes you out to a zone where you then get to experience the story, and you go around and you do things. Once you're out there, you can use the Drummond Dawnblossom thing as a breadcrumb to get you out to Volshara, but then you don't know to go talk to the quartermaster while you're there. So maybe it would have been better if, rather than moths, if there was something connected with squirrels, because there was the the Aw Nuts quest that was in the city with the quartermaster, where you have to go like click on the acorns and the squirrels, and it was a very punny quest. Well, that would put you right next to the quartermaster, and maybe there would be something where you go talk to the quartermaster and you're perusing what they have to offer, something like that. I don't know, but like they're missing the connection there that they have in some of the more established selections. But I'm glad we have it. Like, at the end of the day, I will absolutely look inside this gift horse's mouth, but I'm not going to totally critique the dentistry. Hey guys, Editor Rickles here. I'm gonna butt in real quick just because there was something that I forgot about, and it's the only thing that really confuses me about this stuff in Arden Wheeled. And that's, I don't understand why it has a reputation requirement. So like, rep is Blizzard's way. The purpose, the fundamental purpose of rep is to time gate things. So like, you don't want the no life nerds to get their best in slot gear on day one, so you need to draw things out, because otherwise they're going to be so much more powerful than the casuals that they're going to be bored, and the casuals are going to feel like it's not worth their time to play. So you gotta let the casuals catch up, and you gotta keep the min-maxers down. And so if you don't want people getting best in slot gear or whatever, you lock it behind exalted reputation and say, like, you are not allowed to get this thing for at least 1 month. And that's essentially what you're saying. Revered is usually like 2 to 3 weeks, something like that. So but that 2 to 3 week period, that 1 month period, is from the introduction of the faction. And so in 9.1.5, locking something behind the Wild Hunt rep, that's weird because that faction was introduced a year ago. It's not gating anything. Like, all it's doing, the only use for it that I can see is, if someone starts playing the game in patch 10.1 and then 2 expansions pass and they go back and they're getting inscriptionizer recipes that they missed before, then this will allow them to get invested in the Shadowlands expansion. Like, it gives them an excuse to do the storyline, I guess. It's weird. It's weird, and I don't get it, and I don't like that I don't get it, and I wanted to share my frustrations. All right, on with the guide. Once you're done with all that stuff, you've got everything from Arden Wheeled. Congratulations. Head over to Oribos and talk to the Inscriberist trainer, and they'll give you the Glyph of Wild Mushrooms, which is kind of an old throwback glyph. It just puts a little mushroom in the middle of your efflorescence, so it'll make some resto druids happy. This is another thing that you're going to want to advertise to the community to let them know it exists. Now, if you don't have a Brutosaur, before you leave Oribos, pick up 30 Aetheral Meat, 30 Creepy Crawler Meat, and 30 Phantasmal Haunch. These are all pretty cheap, shouldn't be that big of an issue. We're going to go to Revendreth and over by the Night Market. This is the Black Market Auction House area. We're going to talk to Tatru, and Tatru is a bartender over by the little lake. It's just a little pond, and he's standing over by a shed, but he sells, or they sell, this recipe for 30 of one of the meat, and it's like a random meat every day. I really like that the brokers don't buy anything with gold, because gold doesn't mean anything in the Shadowlands. So they do this barter system, and they're always trying to find out what people value. And so it's cool that they have like rotating costs every day, because they're trying to figure out what we want, what we like. But you learn that and you're good to go. Okay, and now it's time to get to the farm that all of you have been waiting for, or at least half of you. How to farm the Mark of the Regal Dreadbat. This one is rough. I'm going to be straight up with you. This is a grind. It is purchasable on the auction house, so if you see it up on the auction house for like 5K, grab it. It's fine. But the way this one works, you need to go up to Dominance Keep in the northwest of the zone. You need to kill the bats that are up in Dominance Keep in the northwest of the zone, and only the bats that are actually flying around or hanging upside down. There are some like big honkin' bats that are patrolling around. Don't worry about them. The guys that are like walking on all fours, they don't drop it. Don't deal with them. Ignore them. Here's my route. This covers every spawn point of the bats. Here's a link to a video explaining how I use routes for farming. It's focusing on the gathering professions. If you'd like me to make a part 2 of that video that explains like how to make a non-gathermate based route from scratch and how to use taboos and all that stuff, let me know. I'd be happy to make that video. If not, and you can figure it out, then great. But for this route, it takes about 4 to 5 minutes to do one full lap, and you'll kill usually like 10 to 20 bats, but sometimes we only killed like 5. So sometimes you'll get unlucky. It'll depend on your competition. I wasn't able to figure out how to get these to force spawn. Maybe someone will figure that out eventually. But until then, this is the best we can do. Somewhere between 100 and 200 bats per hour. Like, there aren't very many little secret tips with this spot, but you do want to avoid the big honkin' stompy guys that are patrolling around. There's also like a flower. It's called like blood thistle or something. It's a little white flower. You click on it. Anyone can click on it. You don't need to be an herbalist, but when you click on it, you get an additional 30% leech, something like that. So if you're a little under geared, this area might be a little rough for you, but 30% extra leech, that's going to help you just keep some constant healing if you're like if you're a class that doesn't have any self-healing. And then finally, there's a little room where there are 2 bats hanging in the ceiling, and they aren't targetable from below. What you want to do, you want to land on top of the ceiling. That'll aggro the 2 bats, and then you go run off the ceiling and land on the ground underneath it, and they'll come down and you'll be able to kill them. And that's how you get those guys. Now, I don't know what the drop rate is on this, but here are our results. We had 8 people cycle in and out of the group. The 3 who were non-inscribers never got a pet. One of them farmed for like 5 hours, but as soon as they switched over to their inscriptionist, then they got a pet relatively quickly. So one person got the pet after an hour of farming, so that's 100 to 200 kills. One person got it after an hour and a half, so 150 to 300 kills. One person got it after 2 hours, so 200 to 400. One person got it after 4 hours, which is 400 to 800. And one person got it after, I think it was like 5 or 5.5 hours. So it's somewhere, I would say the drop rate is somewhere between 1 in 100 and 1 in 1,000. Let's say like probably 1 in 500, but it does require inscription, and interestingly, no one got a second one. So I think you've got kind of this mage glyph type thing where you only get one, and once you learn it, you can't get a second one, which is kind of a shame. I think this would be a cool way of like farming up some extra gold, or maybe just having people out here farming this would saturate the market and prices would drop too low. I don't know. I don't know where I stand. I like fun things to farm, but I also want those fun things to be really rare. Now, this is the only way for alliance characters to turn into bats, so this is going to be a pretty valuable glyph just because of that, and it's also a pain and a half to farm, so it's going to be expensive because of that. So reduced competition and a little bit higher than normal demand, we're probably looking at a consistent like 20k for this glyph. Somewhere, like maybe on high pop servers you're looking at like 5k, but that's my long-term prediction. This is going to be the most expensive glyph long-term out of all of these. But you know what? I think that's it. All of my videos recently have been like 30 minutes long, so I tried to make this one faster. I don't know if I succeeded, but hey, if this helped you, then give the video a thumbs up, and that'll help it get out there to help even more Inscribblers. And that's it. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Good luck and happy gold making.